right, let's get started. What's up, guys? Happy Sunday. My name is Sharlit Elise, and this is Technical with Sharlit Elise. We're actually on episode 11, right? Episode 10, we didn't do anything huge to celebrate, but it was a tiny milestone. But today, I got a little something special for the stream. So, I hope you guys are doing well, whether you're joining me live or on VODs. I just really like to do the show. I think this podcast is like a great way for me to like learn about stuff, about things that I typically wouldn't like stumble upon or I wouldn't care as much. I have been mostly like my tech knowledge has mostly been focused on software in terms of games. It's always been about gaming. Hardware in terms of games. Like I said, always about gaming. But, getting to kind of look at how technology is changing around us. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about AI, right? But there are also things that aren't AI that has happened in the tech world recently. And we're going to cover some of those topics. But as usual, I want to start the stream, start this podcast with like two little tidbits of highlights that I found for the week. So sit back, chill, and check out this new way of traveling. You can say it's called flying car. Check it out. This is the Aero HT's X2. There's a lot of X's in our lives nowadays, but this is the X2. This is manufactured and designed by a Chinese company. The parent company is XPeng, P-E-N-G. And it's simply a two-seat carbon fiber quadcopter. Now, it's supposed to be a flying car. The thing is, this is an early design focusing on the flight features, obviously. And I think we've mastered the car on this planet. And what they're trying to do, what this company is trying to do, is merge the two technologies together. The X2 is designed for like low altitude flying. Maybe you want to go to the supermarket, pick up some groceries. You're not like it's not designed to travel very far. Ramen Chat says, if anything, it's like helicopters, then it's super hard to pilot and super dangerous. That's another thing. But in fact, this car has autopiloting, which for the time being, autopilot is fine, right? Because compared to electric vehicles, this does not have traffic in the skies. They don't have to worry as much about traffic. So yeah, the journeys are going to be relatively successful, right? Obviously, you got to take into consideration winds and like birds and other objects, but for the most part, it's clear skies, if you will. Um, so this design has actually undergone 3,000 tests since June of 2021. So they've been kind of working on it. So what's so special is they have received a special flight permit by the Aviation Administration in China. So they're going to be able to test this with proper supervision in more realistic environments and not just like a test field, which they have been doing. So ultimately the design is going to be a sedan, a 4-door sedan, and you know how like the 80s Ferrari or something with the wing doors, right? The wing doors that just come out. Um yeah, it's going to be something like that, except propellers will come outside of the car and start chopping away. I don't know. It sounds kind of strange. It sounds just like something like the Wright brothers. You know, it doesn't look like it would make sense. It's just adding propellers to any object. Is it legal to fly over cities? I don't know what that special permit really applies to, but they have acquired it. We'll probably hear more about them in the future. Because I wouldn't exactly want one of those flying above me, right? Like, because this is not like a commercial airline. This is some dude who probably doesn't know how to fly it well and just flying above your head. And these are like rotor blades, right? Chopping away that's uplifting the car. The whole car needs to be made of carbon fiber. So when they integrate these wings and the deployment of them, it's going to be into a car form. It's actually going to be a car. So I don't know. It sounds very go gadget. Honestly, that is probably what it resembles most, right? It's like go gadget helicopter, and then you press a button, and then a thing comes out of the guy's head. It's the same concept. Anyways, I just wanted to touch upon that. Next up for our highlights of the week, we got Unity. Yeah, Unity. Remember last week we talked about how Unity was charging a fee for all their games for using the Unity runtime, and they're basically trying to make a few extra bucks, in this case, several thousand or more, per like big Unity developer. And well, that's going to change. And they did roll back the fiasco. Yes, they did. They rolled back not completely, but into a format that makes more sense. Starting in 2024, developers using the new Unity software will be rolled into this agreement. Now, for every installation, users, the developer will be taxed, or they will have to pay a fee. And this only applies to new games. But quite honestly, after that, people are burned. People are really burned, and they're already switching away from Unity. Yeah, so maybe their old games don't get taxed, but they definitely don't want to push forward into having new games. Yeah, exactly. Game devs will remember. And a lot of companies have already boycotted them. But here's what they had to say. Oh, here's what they had to say. This one. We should have spoken with more of you, and we should have incorporated more of your feedback before announcing our new runtime fee policy. Ah, my dear, my dear. It. I don't. I don't think it. You just from a logical standpoint, that doesn't make sense, right? To break contracts, it just you don't need to consult anyone. Just don't mess with people's contracts. Well, we'll see what happens with Unity. This could be marking a huge downfall for them. Honestly, a lot of people seem to like Unity, and they're gonna lose a lot of business. That's all. Roll back or not. So let's go into the meaty topics of today. Every episode, we cover 3 topics in the tech space, and I want to hear your opinions on whether or not you support these technological changes or these integrations into our life. So, the first topic is WhatsApp flows will change the way you shop. And a lot of people I know use WhatsApp. And it's actually going to make a big difference in how we go in our day to day lives, especially if you live in the city. So, once again, this is an interactive show, so feel free to comment on anything. The second topic is you must speak your mind because that's what he wants us to do. I'm not going to spoil too much. And finally, press 0 for a human. If you know what that reference is, then you may see where I'm going with this one. Ram says shopping is already super easy, but no. You don't know, Ram. You don't know. Let me show you. All right, picture this. It's 1 p.m. Manhattan, lunch. We walk into the restaurant, but instead of a waitress greeting us, we open our phone, go into WhatsApp, and we choose our seats. After we sit down, we order our food. But ordering our food, once again, doesn't incorporate the waitress. We can sit down and dial in our recipes, our orders via the phone. You can customize your food. You could get your well done steak. I know it's a little embarrassing that you eat well done steak, but that's what you like. That's what you like. But thankfully, since you don't have to say that out loud, you can just order on your phone. After we submit the order, a reply comes in saying our food is on its way. So that is what WhatsApp flows is going to be. Ram says it's kind of fun interacting with waiters. Is it? Is it really? Now, I do have I have had decent experiences with waiters, waitresses, but sometimes, well, I don't really want to interact with people. And that's what this is definitely useful for. So, WhatsApp, if you don't know, is a brand from Meta. It's a messaging app from Meta. And Meta has decided to create flows as a way of introducing shopping and furthering the ways to interact with businesses. So it will allow users to like book seats, customize orders, fill out like forms. If you want to go like roller skating, you have to sign a waiver. Well, you could just open up the app, fill out the form, and send it all through WhatsApp. And there's going to be a lot more functionality added into this in this program. Businesses will be able to provide rich menus, and they could customize it to whatever they need. And that's what makes it interesting, because if you can do everything from booking a trip than to ordering food, then there's almost no need to go onto their websites anymore. So how does it all work? Businesses will have a verified profile, right? Because nowadays there's a lot of impersonation and it's easy to impersonate. So it makes sense that they have a verified system. Ram says, my terrible old phone is already filled with useless apps. Are they really useless? Actually, think about this way. Let's say you have an application for, let's say you have Venmo, right? Venmo is a peer-to-peer, end-to-end encrypted money transaction program, right? Cool. And if you could pay in WhatsApp flows or WhatsApp in general, you won't need to run Venmo. So when you're going to a business, yeah, you could order things. By hitting a few buttons, you could bring up a menu. And depending on the services of the business, it could kind of look something like this. So this is a concept of how WhatsApp flows will introduce menus into WhatsApp. And in this case, a user can text the business saying, I want to book a trip. And then a prompt will come up that lets you fill out forms and fill out the criteria and choose seats. I think yeah. Ram says, also, I've heard things of WhatsApp. It's very invasive. Sure, it is. But I think a lot of users are getting accustomed to invasive tech. That's why they have the audacity to launch something of this scale. But going back to WhatsApp, okay, so you can order things and you can book seats and book hotel rooms and do all this stuff on the app. You can also pay through the app. And that's where they launch WhatsApp Pay. Because there's money involved and WhatsApp is always marketed as an end-to-end encryption technology, the pay system will also incorporate the same technology. Customers will interact through WhatsApp Pay, another feature they're adding into WhatsApp. So this is a slide that shows kind of the shopping experience, right? You could text a business. It could open up a browser. You could open up to browse their wares, their hardware, and then you can choose an item and then check it out. So payment systems will the payment system will incorporate a variety of unified payment interface apps. And that's what you're kind of seeing in the second slide. And then finally, you go to your final checkout part and you also get your receipt. So for the most part, this all seems like a really good system that feeds into itself. The services currently available, for the most part, in India and Brazil. That has been their testing bed for this new way of doing business. And Singapore is also allowed to do some of the testing as well. But for the most part, like, the rest of the world won't see it for a little while. In the upcoming weeks, they will be rolling out these features to the new business platform. And that's another thing. WhatsApp is also including a business platform, right? Because if you could be a vendor and people can message you, then what's to keep people from falsifying a claim? I could stand in front of a coffee shop and change my name to the coffee shop. And I'll be like, oh, like, yeah, if you need an order, just, message me. And I'll take the order, right? Like technically that could be people could impersonate a business. So so of course Meta has a system to address that, right? And we talked about verification. But like Rom says, I wouldn't trust Facebook to handle finances. I don't know. I at this point I don't trust a lot of companies to handle finances. Anything that has to do with transactions. Well, in the same way, like if you're in a big city and you're looking to buy something, sometimes, few circumstances, you're not even talking to a cashier or someone to receive your order. I went to there's this place in New York City called Smack, right? S apostrophe MAC. Smack. It's a macaroni, like a mac and cheese restaurant. It focuses on mac and cheese. I know. Um it is not smack like that. But it's good. It's a good place to eat. However, the decor in this restaurant was just very, very orange. Very, very orange. They had their orange chairs, the orange wallpaper, the orange. They had one of those sports drink dispensers, one of those Gatorade dispensers, and obviously that was orange. They had orange countertops, and you get it, right? Um so yeah, not the best eating environment because you would kind of go crazy. But so is their checkout environment, the ordering um system. People waited online to get to the counter. Their food is orange. Their food is orange. People waited online, and when you get to the counter, when it's your turn to get to the counter, kind of like a McDonald's, there's no one there. You're actually turning the point of sale device and you're inputting your order and just choosing it there, and then that's it. It's like one of those quick kiosk things. But when you go into a restaurant, you kind of expect there to be some service. There was no one who worked in the store, in the front of the store. Everyone was in the back cooking food. Like they don't have a cashier. This is similar to that. Macaroni and orange juice. I don't think that sounds very good. That doesn't sound like a good mixture, but I guess maybe they had orange juice just to kind of keep with the orange theme. So there's that way of ordering food, but how about other restaurants where you sit down? When you sit down and then you're expecting them to give you a menu, and then they're like, oh, the menu's on the QR code on the table. Like, how do you feel about scanning QR codes for restaurant menus? Like, is this an actual thing people like, or do people like physical menus? I like physical menus, only because if they have pictures, the pictures are larger. I particularly hate QR codes when it comes to ordering food. If I have to scan the thing, navigate to the website, it's actually a few clicks. When if you gave me a physical menu, I just kind of open it up and order from there, right? So is it really something we need? And I feel like this business addition to WhatsApp is going to be much of the same, except it won't involve scanning a QR code. Perhaps there'll be some way, or maybe you still scan a QR code. You probably would still scan a QR code, honestly. So it could bring up the business profile and then you can interact with it that way. I feel like this could also be like some kind of infrared or some kind of um some kind of way to automatically register when you go into a store and bring up the business profile. Um take like the model of the Amazon stores, right? The physical stores where you could go in and just like check out, right? When you leave with your item, your it's automatically deducted from your account, right? It could turn into something like that. But with every new piece of technology that allows us to interface with it, there's always a few users who will try to abuse that. Think of the abusive people would be the people that give free Wi-Fi at the coffee shop or the airport. Like these are things that as users we just have to be worried about. Rom says you enter a restaurant and your phone turns into a menu. That could actually be a thing, right? You could automatically receive a text from the restaurant. I don't see a problem in that. I actually do like this idea, but I know it's not for everyone. And it really isn't. So, the verification system. Meta has verification system. It's called Meta Verified. It applies to Threads, it applies to Instagram, and it will apply to WhatsApp. Rom Hook says, no text, no confirmation, it just happens. I could see that happening as well, right? Especially when this technology gets adopted. So Meta Verified is a way for users to identify businesses are legit, at least to some degree. Meta Verify will also unlock like premium features for businesses, and it will also unlock the ability for multiple staff members to have a profile for their business, right? So you have the choice of getting joining the business platform on Meta, and you whether you do so or not, you could still run a business and people could still text you things. But if you want all these features, that's probably going to be locked behind the business platform. And what the business platform allows people to do is just get more traction, such as once you have a business profile, people can look it up in a Google search. So what has Google WhatsApp flows changed so far that we talked about? One, it could minimize the impact of waitresses, right? The need for waitresses. Two, it serves as a business profile. Same thing with the Google business profiles. Like when you go into Google Maps, you can look up like 10 nearest Japanese restaurants, right? And then it'll give you a list of all the Japanese restaurants. This business profile is going to be a direct competitor to Google's business listings. It also serves as a peer-to-peer money transfer system. or peer to business, right? Because you can actually pay your friends through the pay system in WhatsApp. Ram actually asked a question here, and he said, is WhatsApp flows independent of WhatsApp? No, it's actually going to be a full integration. And what's kind of happening is that this app is going to be able to do multiple things, a lot of things, in fact, and in essence can invalidate certain um, apps like restaurant reviewing apps, right? Money transaction apps. So the day of the cluttered app space might be minimized if you roll all your services into one app. This is something I like to do. I have a Steam account that I've had for many years, and I've accrued a lot of games, but I also have an Epic account. And even though Epic was giving away free games, I never used it. I dislike having multiple platforms. I like being on one platform. This is something I enjoy. Like, so WhatsApp, this whole WhatsApp business model thing speaks to me and people like me, but I know it's not for everyone. So take a look at this. This is how the business profile will look like. On the left, you have the meta verification, and then you have your business profile, right? You could list your phone number, how to contact, business hours, and you kind of edit it to so you could index yourself in a way where search engines could find your business more easily. And then the two on the right is your communications. The third image is detailing how you would interact with a customer, all right, what you would see. And then the last image is showing your team members who has access to the business profile, right? With this in place, that means multiple people working in the same business can answer questions from customers. So if you have worked in like a storefront, right? You usually pick up the phone and then you're checking out people at the same time, or in my case, I was customer service and the bookkeeper at the same time, which is a terrible idea, by the way. I did both of those things at the same time. So I'm expected to count money and expected to pick up the phone. Like, you don't want people counting your money to multitask. You don't. You just don't. It's money. This is your whole business. That's what you're working for. Anyways, point is, with this service, technically, I wouldn't have to answer that. I could let someone else do it. And I could imagine a lot of business owners would be primarily the ones to answer all the questions, right? And leave the cashiers to do whatever, right? So it's like, this is how, like, this could affect like coffee shops, right? People doing different orders, and people just take them as they go, right? So all of this sounds great, but Meta is still Meta. And Meta's going to make money. They're not going to make money off of the users. They're going to make money based upon the communications, the conversations that businesses have with users. They're not going to be charged on individual messages. This is not, although it's very similar, this is not the text messaging phone plans that we had in earlier years. they're going to, if a user messages a business, a conversation will be open for 24 hours where you could text as much as you want. And that's great, right? Businesses will pay a flat fee, but depending on the type of communications, it will affect things, affect the cost for the business. So, how can you communicate with people? How can business communicate with people? You could do marketing promotions, right? New product was just launched, or we have more Pixel 8s in our store. Come pick one up today. Invitations to like Friday night fetish night. They're Friday night fetish night is a thing, all right? We could get invitations for that. There's also utility messages, which is like authenticating it's like purchases and transaction confirmations, receipts, all that stuff. There's authentication, which is like businesses, if you have to like verify your identity, maybe in a banking capacity, which at the end of the day, I do want to keep my bank separate from WhatsApp, right? You want to compartmentalize like your finances, not just have everything all in one. That's the only thing I'm worried about. And just general questions. People could message you. And each type of conversation that you open with a customer as a business, you'll be charged a certain amount. The amounts I don't know at the moment, but that's how it would look like on the business end. So what is this kind of saying? What is this whole thing? It's basically WhatsApp is now becoming one of the first all-in-one apps. It incorporates messaging, it incorporates bookings and all these features. Is this something you would like? I like everything but the linking of my bank account to it. I'd rather have a separate and I think I'll be able to have a separate payment source, right? Like we don't necessarily have to go directly through WhatsApp. They have partners that we can work through. Do I have WhatsApp installed? I do. I use it. And I use it a lot. A lot of people, I have like groups and stuff. A lot of people I know use it. My mom uses it. Will it turn to WhatsApp Flow with an update? In the coming weeks, yes. It will be updated. Now, currently I have an old phone, so I don't think that my functionality will be inhibited because my phone is older, but I think in time, like everyone's gonna have access to it. They're still rolling it out for businesses, right? Because without businesses getting the platform and getting time to set up and understand and training their staff and all that, like the users have nothing to interface with, right? So this is all just to help businesses. So what if, though, right? Maybe you love the all-in-one app idea. I do. But the all-in-one app also makes it so that your number, right, where you use to contact family and friends, is going to be shared with businesses. So how do you prevent businesses from misusing that information? How do you prevent businesses from misusing any information you give, right? Let's say you go into a coffee shop, right? You're just picking up some coffee, you order through your phone, and the cashier, she thinks you're cute. And maybe you are very cute. But this woman is not quite right. She's a little obsessive, right? She's like, you pick up your coffee at 2 p.m. She messages you at 4. Oh, how was your coffee? And you're like, oh, that's sweet. Thank you for asking. Then she messages you at 6 p.m. Would you like a coffee before dinner? I could prepare your favorite. And you'll be like, how do you know what my favorite is when I only ordered here one time? And then she messages, oh, I know all about you. That scenario can very much happen, right? Because they have a 24-hour window to contact you, right? So you have, as a user, you have the choice to block a business, right? And that prevents all communication two-way, right? You can't interact with them, they can't interact with you. That's cool. There's report a business, right? Where you could report them for harassment or for commerce issues. Maybe they just didn't advertise, they didn't charge you the right price, and they didn't charge you the price they advertised. Or you could actually just decline the message or just send a message back, right? So maybe 6 p.m. isn't good for a coffee, but 8 p.m. after dinner, you get one more coffee to go. It's not a dating app, but people might turn it into a dating app. That's something I am a little worried about, right? Yeah, I just don't like the idea that a business will have access to me for 24 hours. And yeah, I could block them and stuff, but it's not a good feeling. Hi, Allison. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to Technical with Sharlit Elise. Today, we're talking about WhatsApp and their new business model, WhatsApp Flows. So, if you felt like you've heard this before, right? If you felt like you heard about businesses getting integrated into a chat app, it has. We're not. Today we are talking about booping the snoot. All right, fine. I boop while I talk. Boop. So it's chonkers for those of you who don't know. If this all sounds familiar, Google has actually released a similar idea many years ago. I think it was on Google Duo or one of their messaging apps where you could in a text with your friend on the Google app. He's like he's shy. In the Google app, you could say, find me I probably shouldn't say it into the phone. Find me like the nearest pizzerias, right? And and then within the message, you can see all the pizzerias propagate. I have tested it when the functionality came out, but I don't see anyone using it. And maybe that's just like Google, right? Because Google's Messenger or Google's social platforms, you remember Google has done so many things, but nothing has really stuck, and they haven't really stuck by their product launches and their service launches. Stadia. So like that's probably why this didn't come to fruition earlier. WhatsApp has a giant install base. Meta has a giant install base. So that's why it probably will work. So what's next? Flows will be available to businesses around the world using the WhatsApp business platform in the coming weeks. I don't know how this is going to affect you personally, locally. I don't know how it's going to affect New York places locally, but I feel like by the end of the year, we should see some implementation of the business profiles in possibly the big chains, like things like Starbucks. They'll probably start incorporating it earlier than your typical mom and pop's coffee shop, right? Ron says there's a huge list of failed Google uh whoa sorry, that was the wrong slide. There's a huge list of failed Google startups. I'm sure there is. And I think Google's kind of kicking themselves for not sticking to any of the products they have pushed out. It's allowing someone like Meta to, in one swoop, add a business function, add a search function, add a financial money transaction function to WhatsApp, which is already a dominating messaging platform. I think that places like Venmo, Google Maps, and even point of sales, cash registers will be nullified as more people adopt this way of paying for their services. All right, feel better, Rom. Thank you for hanging out. So, I don't know. Is this something you're going to welcome? I also feel like the likelihood of success is, well, is likely. And I think that whether or not we like it, certain places will begin to adopt it. And depending on how customers utilize the program, we may see more people focus on this as their primary means of conducting business. But I can't read your mind. I must ask, are you interested in Neuralink because they are recruiting human subjects? Do you trust Elon Musk? Do you actually trust him? Yeah, I know his latest hijinks in the social media space, right? With X, has been really crazy, honestly. Putting signage on top of buildings and then being forced to take it down, constructing in the middle of New York City streets without a permit, throwing out kitchen sinks and whatnot, and firing tons of people. Cyberdog says, what chip? Hey, did my app break? I think my app broke. Okay. Cyberdog says, there is, what chip do you have in your brain, Charlotte? Is it a Dorito? I wish. And I would have a yummy brain. So whether you trust Elon Musk, the Tesla developer, whether you trust Elon Musk, the social media platform rebrander, I think you might need to look at Neuralink Musk. I think Neuralink Musk is a totally new person. Let's see. Cyberdog in chat says, A.C. Clarke wrote about brain implants several decades back. He called them a brain stud, which helps regulate emotion. Yeah, I think the cultural impact of like cybernetics, like being implanted into humans, like we like it. I think most people are cool with it in terms of like the fantasy front, right? In your cyberpunk stories and your video games, in that universe, right? Have you, LSR from chat says, have you ever read The New Emperor's Mind from Roger Penrose? I don't know what that is. It's like that. Oh, it's like the Emperor's clothes or something, except with the mind. I don't know. Neural implants are kind of scary, but it's a budding technology. So, what is Neuralink? Neuralink is a company that is currently focused on generalized, company that is focused on generalizing brain, having a generalized brain interface. Is designed to restore autonomy to those who have lost the ability to utilize certain motor functions in their body. People who are quadriplegic, that is one of their target audiences. And yeah, these people who have a pretty dramatic medical condition where they can't use their arms or legs or communicate well, this device, Neuralink, is designed to allow those people to interact with us more easily. And it is a good technology. It's a good idea because you want to give people an easier time, especially when they go through a lot of hardships, right? Day to day. Oh, okay. LSR says that book, The New Emperor's Mind, is about science and what we're talking about, Neuralinks. So I know that this topic, this interfacing, this combination of electronics and flesh is kind of disturbing, right? In video games is cool. Killing cyber demons, totally cool. Barons of Hell, not a problem. But when it comes to real life, it's definitely more disturbing, at least for me. So throughout this whole discussion, there will be 0 graphic images. I will not show anything that is beyond a few comments and one image of the device itself, right? And it's up to you and your imagination on how it interfaces. You could picture that in your own head, but here's a non-graphic image of the device. So this is the N1 implant by Neuralink, and it seems to be a relatively small device. So thank God it's not like some Matrix thing where they put this giant plug in the back of your head. And it's a pretty compact design, and it's designed to be cosmetically invisible. The device aims to allow users to interface with a computer on the go. So how this works is using this piece of hardware with a battery inside it. It will be a wireless connection to a mobile phone or laptop or desktop, whatever. And that will allow users to transmit their thoughts. And we'll kind of talk about that in more detail. Transfer their thoughts to the electronic device, to your laptop or your phone, right? And the N1 implant uses low-powered chips that will process the neural signals. They have 1,024 electrodes distributed across like these threads that are spread out into the patient, right? Because remember, this is a medical device first. In the future, they're going to think about expanding this outside, but for now, we're just talking about a medical device. And these low power chips will have to be installed by a surgical robot because they're so fine that human hands aren't delicate enough to use it. So with this new technology, surgical robots is going to be expanding technology, obviously. I think the profession of the surgeon is not going to change, except they will not be conducting surgery with their hands in the future. Cyberdog in chat says wireless connectivity could be useful for implants and monitor health functions like a heart monitor. True. For now, this is just a communication device, but this could also and I think that's where the future technology lies, is it could be used for diagnosing certain issues or even detecting certain feelings, right? Because it analyzes neural impulses, send it to a computer to translate it into a format that other people can understand, right? So it has great potential. I've never thought of that, but I think that's just the natural development of the technology, right? So are you ready for surgical robots though? Right? Like I think I have, for the most part, what we see public facing when it comes to robots, they're agile, they're funny, sometimes they're cute, and they're accurate. But what we don't see behind the scenes is all the attempts that it takes to create a product that is reliable, that is agile, that is funny, right? So right now we don't have a lot of surgical robots out there, and this might be one of the first biggest implementations of them for them. So I think with any technology, first genning it is probably not a good idea. But this medical device, the N1 implant, it might be one of the few choices that people who have lost motor function have. It's hard to imagine, right? Losing that much functionality and how you feel, right? For those of us who are like kind of blessed to not have these type of like inflictions, it sounds kind of ridiculous, right? To put yourself up to be like the test bed for these things. But I think people would be willing to do this given the chance. Because actually Neuralink isn't very new. The technology started in 2002 and they continued to develop it. There was a woman in 2017 who was able to interface with it and use her mind to control a cursor on a computer screen. She essentially had an on-screen keyboard and she would type out what she wanted. And this woman continued to do tests into 2018, and here we are. Like, the technology is proven to work to a certain degree, but how far we're going to take it remains to be seen. Because now Neuralink has approval from the FDA to test on humans, right? Because in previous tests, they have actually tested on monkeys. And while the initial tests, like the initial implementations back in 2017 was just like very few people, having this tested on on regular normal people, I don't know, maybe they're gonna have certain criteria. I'm sure they're gonna have some criteria, but like it just seems really out there. Turbulent Solace says, I would never trust any government affiliated entity with control over my mind. Now, as of this moment, there's no indication that this device will control us. So I see what you're saying, and it's totally valid. But for the time being, we don't know the full depths of this technology. We only know that users are able to control a cursor with it. Sure. Sure. At some point, we're probably going to see some kind of negative, like, usage of the technology. Turbulent Saw says true, but at the same time, it opens the door of hacking too. And it sort of scares the shit out of me. I've never thought of that. Yeah. I said earlier, whenever there's a new way to interface with technology, there will always be people who try to get in between you and the new technology, right? So, wow, that actually changes a lot, right? When you think about it, because it's using a wireless connection. Wireless connections just can be intercepted, right? A hardwire connection, a lot more difficult, not undoable, but this is a wireless connection. I'm definitely way more scared of this now, thinking about that. Now, I don't think that this Neuralink, as of this moment, is going to make me like squeeze, yeah, like an ex-boyfriend, like choke him out, right? I don't think that's gonna happen. Turbulent Solace says, dude just broke up with you, hack into his mind for revenge. I'm not I pick people where I usually don't need to revenge. Actually, I never need to revenge. Those are people I date. I don't date like people who have that potential to be psychotic. But I have dated a person who has the potential to be psychotic. I'm kidding, not kidding. All right. So human studies, great. But what about those monkey studies, right? Because this has been tested on terminally ill monkeys. But unfortunately, most of those monkeys have had terrible things happen to them. I'm not going to get too graphic. I am squeamish when it comes to flesh and machine combined. I am squeamish. Allison says, but who cares about monkeys? They aren't humans at all. Well, I care. Maybe you're not as careful about monkeys. I care. I care. Those poor little monkeys. So all right, Neuralink, what did they do? They got a bunch of monkeys who are terminally ill. That means they were destined to pass away due to whatever afflictions they have, right? And that's fine, right? Right? I mean, that's fine is a loaded statement. It depending on your stance on testing on animals, this is like a super touchy topic. Personally, I would not want to test it on animals, but I would not want to test it on humans. I probably just wouldn't want to test it. How about that? Let's just jam it in and we'll figure it out. So what happened with these monkeys? Several of the monkeys and it's kind of like, it's gruesome. I'm not going to say it, but several of the monkeys have found this foreign object to be uncomfortable, and they have put in their own effort to extracting it on their own. That's all I'm going to say. It's fucking awful sounding. This is like, you know what I'm picturing? And I'm sure it's not the case. I'm sure it's more nicer than what this may sound like. But it reminds me of that movie, that really old movie, 28 Days Later. You know, at the beginning, there's like, they show like people trying to rescue the monkeys, and then the monkeys kind of break out, and they're like very angry monkeys. I don't know. I don't know exactly what happened to the monkeys. Um, a few of them bled out from trying to extract the device, um, and it was uncomfortable. I guess that's the difference, because when you give the device to a human, they full well know what they're getting into. When you test on animals, they don't really know what the fuck's going on. Obviously, the test isn't going to go well. Like, you ever try put like socks and shoes on a dog? Huh? Did you need to test this on monkeys to figure that shit out? Do it. Next time, if you think about testing on animals, put some fucking shoes on your dog. See how long that lasts. See if your dog is still happy. I think that is probably the avenue they should have thought about before they even start testing this shit, right? But they're saying these monkeys are terminally ill, right? And yeah, that in fact, Elon Musk has said that Neuralink was not the cause of the passing of these test monkeys. He specifically said, no monkey has died as a result of a Neuralink implant. First, our early implants to minimize risk to healthy monkeys, we chose terminal monkeys, close to death already. And this statement has been somewhat nullified because people have, an ex-employee of Neuralink had said these monkeys, they have lived a year before these tests were conducted. He's basically saying these weren't actually terminally ill monkeys. These were just regular monkeys. And other people have said that these monkeys were relatively young. So the fact that they might be terminally ill is quite unlikely. They're basically saying Elon Musk is lying. Yeah, turbulent. Yeah, that's what happened. I don't really want to like, it's pretty graphic. I mean, what you said is not incredibly graphic, but I just don't want to like say that out loud. But yeah, like if you're more interested, you can always like hear more about this news around. So an ethics group known as the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine has sent letters to the U.S. Securities Exchange Commission demanding they investigate these claims. Like, they don't think these tests were deployed humanely, and they kind of want Elon Musk to pay for that if it is indeed conducted wrongly. So if these interfaces are designed for medical reasons, how likely are you to adopt a brain to computer interface for non-medical reasons in the future? Like, what are the possible benefits, right? Well, memorization or connecting to a cloud could be useful. So that I just could, like, if I want to bring up like a video of an awesome moment in my life or a photo, I could just like neural load it into my brain. It could be great for internet browsing, like all this stuff. I don't know. It's Turbulent Solace says Iron Man like GUI built into your vision. Yeah, but to have a device manipulate what you see and also what you know is kind of scary too, right? And we could go back to the Matrix, right? Like Keanu Reeves did not know. He did not know how to do martial arts. He fucking downloaded martial arts. Like what? Sure. At that point, like how 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 real is everything? Anyways, the physicians committee continues to say, we see his lie as a way to whitewash what happened in these exploratory studies. Referencing Elon Musk's claim that these monkeys didn't die to Neuralink. But hey, they got approval for testing in humans. Clinical trials are now approved. If people are interested, they can do it. But I have to ask, yeah, is Elon Musk a smart guy? Sure. Yeah, he's incredibly smart. Does he have an ethics problem? Definitely, he has an ethics problem. But for this technology to blossom, do we have to crack a few eggs? Crack a few noggins to get brain to computer interfacing? Yeah. But it's not going to be with my brain. No. Yeah, my brain and I, we've had our quarrels, right? We don't get along sometimes, but that's what alcohol is for. I just drown my brain and we come to an agreement. I will not be subjecting my brain to a Neuralink implant, possibly forever. I think. I don't know. Maybe like when I get used to idea. It's just too radical of a experiment to try some clinical trial, right? For a man who X's about X on X. You know, like that's just too far, I think. He's a smart dude, he doesn't know everything, and unless circumstances are dire, I encourage you to do research into it. I think the idea, though, of a Neuralink as a medical device is plausible. I think it's a great idea to help people. For some, it's kind of a miracle. Like, I highly doubt that the widespread implementation of the device will be accepted by people within our generation, right? And I'm talking about like people who are born now to everyone older, because we're living in a time where we don't have this type of integration, and it's going to be pretty disturbing, and it's going to take a lot of generations, I feel, for people to accept this type of interfacing. But you know, like people sometimes fall for silly things, right? Even when they're not that innovating. Like with the new promise, but with the new promise of technologies, things like robo scammers to become more successful through vishing. What did you say, Charlotte? What is this? What is vishing? I wish you a happy birthday. I wish you a happy holidays. No, it's not really an impression though. Vishing is voice phishing. It's similar to regular phishing, which is conducted by emails, but using the voice. It's a type of attack that has a hacker call their target and posing and impersonating a legitimate person, right? So that could be like law enforcement, that could be a friend, that could be your parents. And the hacker will use this to target people to divulge sensitive information like passwords, details on like relationships, and just to social engineer their way into stealing money or getting whatever they want from you. Nowadays, AI has allowed us to create synthetic voices. And these synthetic voices mimics a person's ability. More like not mimics, but duplicates a person's ability to speak. The AI analyzes a person's voice and generates new speech, including their accents, their mannerisms, their tics, anything that can help them say something that could be somewhat disturbing. Like this. Check this out.
In any given month, we have about 3.3 million people cranking their dicks, cranking their little ding dongs to Roblox porn. That's a statistic we're not proud of and one we're trying to work on. But rest assured, if I catch any of my kids,
yeah, this is a talk by a presenter at Roblox, and they use voice synthesis to change the voice or to copy the voice pattern, and to make a seamless edit into what the person has said, right? Last week we talked about Roblox. I just felt it was kind of fitting to like bash Roblox a bit, but yeah, and Roblox is like a whole nother thing, right? In chat says, you think they target average Joes with vishing? It's not that simple to pull off. It has to be worth it. Also high. Yeah. It is quite a bit of work, right? Isn't it? To get a voice synthesizer to copy someone's speech pattern to fool them. Perhaps. But as this technology gets more available and accessible, yeah, maybe we'll see it. So, robocalling. What is robocalling? Robocalling is using, once again, like a synthetic voice to threaten a person, usually the elderly. Usually the elderly are targeted because in their older age, they're not as sharp, right? They're not as tech savvy. And these scams are to social engineer their way into getting a position where they control the user's device. They have access to banking information. They might even convince them to buy gift cards and deliver them back to the scammer. So all these things currently aren't very technologically advanced, right? People are just impersonating tech support and tricking victims, right? They say, I'm from Microsoft, and guess what? Sometimes people just believe, oh, they're from Microsoft because they said it, right? Sometimes they don't second guess some of these statements. But if you incorporate the newest technology into voice synthesis into scamming threats, like how do you pick up the phone and not be concerned that the person you're talking to is real? How would you address voice synthesis? Would you have keywords with your family or your friends? Would you two-factor your phone calls, right? So if you're receiving a call, would you also email them even, right? Be like, hey, check your mail. Is this you? say yes, no. I don't know, because these voice dialogues can be very um believable. And sometimes they get asked you for something like simple, right? How do you deal with like a friend who calls you because they forgot their Netflix password, right? Because you have a shared Netflix account. How do you deal with that, right? That may not be the hack itself, that might be building trust. And then the next time they reach out to you, it could be for more nefarious reasons, right? So to be on guard against phishing attacks, right? Phishing, voice phishing attacks, it's like, it's going to be really difficult. What if you're out? What if the scammer hacker knows you're out and they synthesize your wife's voice or your partner's voice and say, "Oh, you don't go outside and just make sure to pick up some bread on your way home," right? Yeah, that could happen. You might not think anything of it if the voice is believable. You might be tired. Not everyone can be on high alert all the time to detect these things. But you know what? Fortunately, the FCC is fighting back. They have caught two Indian nationals, and they each received 41 months in prison sentences for their involvement in robocalls. And I bring up the fact that they're Indian nationals is because a lot of these robocall scams are coming from India. They have a lot of calls going out to the US and other regions all the time. And they make good money doing it. These two people have made $1.2 million, just two people. Now, their role in the whole scam is not to interact with the customers by selling them the idea and social engineering their way to get the funds, but they are the accounts manager. They are the people that collect the money and interact with the customer, the victim, sorry, to a very like short, in a very small way. It's mainly to collect the money, and then they keep a cut of the money and they send the money through different means to India, to the call centers in India. Turbulent Saul says, "Wow, criminals are actually getting prison time now." And they should be. But it's kind of hard to catch people from a different country. Yeah, you could provide the details of the scammers to the local authorities, but perhaps the local authorities are corrupted, right? This brings in a lot of money into their country. In fact, in 2022, robocall scams have made 65 billion, have stolen $65 billion. And it is projected in 2023, the number remains to be the same. They have made that much money. And remember, these two people only made 1.2 million by themselves, right? People who are being scammed out of their money, they're losing 5,000, 50,000, like, and it sounds really outrageous, right? Because it seems like a hell lot of money, and it sounds like a lot of people are getting scammed. But if this is affecting the elderly, it kind of makes sense where the elderly may have a little more money, right? These are their life savings, and they're being drained. Their bank accounts are being drained. So if these scams, right, currently without voice synthesis is so effective, right, at 65 billion a year, how about how about just how about it won't affect us? What if it doesn't affect us, right? We're, for the most part, we're not elderly. For the most part, we are tech savvy. We're aware that these type of scams exist, right? Here's the thing. According to Microsoft in 2021, they had a global tech support scam research, and they have discovered that Gen Z and millennials fall victim to the crime more frequently than boomers, right? So, according to Microsoft, we're more likely to be victims than people than our parents or grandparents. And why is that? That doesn't make sense, right? We're smarter about it, but it's because younger generations um, engage in riskier online behavior. What does your mom use the internet for? Facebook, checking email, banking? Do they do more than that? They might look up some recipes. My aunt, in particular, she likes looking for free Korean dramas on websites, which, God, I hate that because I'm the one who has to uninstall and extract all that like malware and stuff that she puts on her computer. But she likes doing that. And that's kind of risky behavior. But it is more likely that younger people will engage in riskier behavior. It could be something as circumventing a paywall, watching like a UFC fight, something. And oftentimes when we seek out these things, there's always a catch, right? Because to provide a free service, it actually costs people money. So what do they get in exchange? Malware on your computer, or even worse, malware that leads to a call center. And I know that we're all tech savvy, but this overconfidence is our downfall. And that is why we, the Gen Z and millennial generations, are more likely to be affected by these crimes. So, for example, what one of the crimes may look like is HTML editing. So, there is one scam where it's simply you get an email that claims that you're being charged a certain amount of money. And let's say it's an email from Amazon, and it says, "Oh, thank you for your purchase of $1,500 iPhone," right? So you follow through the email. Um, you follow through the email to discover that this can be addressed by Amazon tech support, right? You get the phone number to Amazon tech support, and that should already be your first red flag, right? Because Amazon does not have a phone number that you can call. I have tried, right? And then what happens is they connect to you remotely, right? They tell you to download remote connecting software, things like AnyDesk. I'm not sure if they still use TeamViewer. I think actually they do. They do use TeamViewer. Any remote access software. Now Windows has its own integrated remote assistant software, but when you're connecting to a client that they choose, they could work all their magic. Ultimately, they show you, they ask you to log in your bank account, and then they change the data that you see on the web page by editing the HTML, right? So if your bank balance is like $10, they can edit it to show, $20 or $5, right? Just by changing this format. And that allows them to continue to deceive the users. Let's see. Eno has a comment and said, oh, that's actually really tiny. I'm going to need to adjust this. I can't wrap my head around internet banking in the sense of a website. It's always been banking apps for me. So even if I did get vished, and I hate that word now. Yeah, it's a cringy sounding word. I have all my family's IBAN saved in that. On top of that, my bank auto completes the receiving party's name whenever I type the send to bank. Good luck with that. Yeah, but not everyone's that tech savvy, right? Not everyone wants to do banking on the mobile device. Sometimes people just like to have everything have everything like on one device, like all their business stuff all on their work computer, right? They're You probably shouldn't do banking on your work computer either, though. Some people are like that, and especially if they're not tech savvy, right? So scams, these scams end up costing people a lot of money, whether they're losing documents, their documents are being held for ransom, their PC is being held for ransom. Some of these remote scans have scammers going into your Windows user settings and adding a password if you don't already have one. They do that right in front of you. It is blatant. And for those who are not tech savvy, or those who are not like really aware, there's nothing they can do. They might panic. They might not be able to change it in time. Now you got a ransomware situation where if you don't pay the scammer the money, they won't release your computer and give you a password. Obviously, you could reformat it, but that's like a more technical response for a not so technical person. According to Microsoft's report, men have fallen more for the tech support scams than women. And it's mostly due to overconfidence. And of course, it depends on the user activity, right? Like, I am a tech person, but I don't really engage in like trying to watch a UFC fight. So all those UFC streams that install some kind of malware and ransomware, I'm not affected because I don't go there. That's kind of what they're talking about, how men seem to be more affected. Maybe it's a combination of the overconfidence plus their riskier online behavior or spicier online behavior. Huh. Let's see. Says, true. If you think HTTPS is secure, I have a company firewall that unpacks all of that for analysis. So don't bank at work or browse other things. Secure, it's not secure. And I think that's the way to put it, right? Like that's the way to see things. You got to treat the internet like it's a loaded gun, right? It's a loaded gun and you're always vulnerable. It's not the best way to be safe, but it does keep your mind ready in case something does happen. So where to next? We are at an unprecedented level of AI generated content, AI voice synthesizers, even AI doing coding, right? You could use an AI to code more sophisticated scams. Currently, the scamming industry isn't as technologically advanced, but it won't be long before they start integrating some of these things and the scams become more elaborate. So I guess the lesson here is, one, don't think you're too smart to get scammed, right? Everyone can get scammed. Two, use precautionary measures like a keyword when talking to family, right? Some kind of two-factor, right? I should start building that with my mom. I'll be like, I'm going to say the word orange juice, and you're going to say, I don't know. Or, and most importantly, just be careful when you're browsing for spicy content. All right. Browsers ain't always going to be free. That's all I have to say. All right. Yeah, so thank you guys for hanging out today. Today we talked about WhatsApp flows and how that's going to change the way we order food in restaurants and interact with businesses. We talked about why Neuralink is great for very few people and definitely not great for monkeys and probably not great for you. And we talked about how scammers will potentially use AI to enhance their scams to a whole new level. Thank you guys for all your love and support and for all your comments. It's great to hear how you feel, and things like book recommendations and opinions. Like I really just feel loved, and thank you for supporting the work. But yeah, my biggest thing is WhatsApp flows. I think it's going to be great. I don't know about you. If you missed that part of the talk, you can always check me out on YouTube and Spotify, because we're on Spotify podcasts. You can always check us out on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. All of these things will be uploaded to the respective platforms tomorrow for your perusal. So, thank you guys so much. I am going to roll into a gaming stream. I don't know, Neuralink. My verdict is WhatsApp flows good, Neuralink bad, and voice synthesizers and vishing scary. I don't know. We'll see what happens next week. All right, guys. I'm going to chill out, and then we'll roll into a gaming stream. Thank you, guys. Be right back.
Can't begin to tell you how much I've been wishing for
you guys actually like the slurping sound? I actually like it. I like to hear the slurping sound. I'm gonna slurp. That's all.